Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And Dr. Lopkin, the first thing I'd really like to talk about is the continuing avoidance of the esteemed president, Mr. Biden, and his doctor spouse. But he is going to do a somewhat of a press conference, but no questions.
Yeah, he's not taking any questions. He's going to be reading a prepared statement. And this has pretty much become all we can expect from him. Most of the press contacts have been made by his juniors or, heads of different departments. They are really doing their best to keep him away from the press, away from questions. And I think it's becoming obvious that he just does not have the mental faculties to handle them.
Okay, so how long does this charade go on?
Honestly, the charade goes on as long as the liberal media lets it go on. They'll cover for him as long as they can. But, it's really getting scary how much they're keeping him out of the public eye. And this is just the beginning of his presidency. It's not like with Reagan, where he was at his peak, when he was elected, and then 6 years into his 8 years of presidency, his mind started going. This is right out of the gate.
And that's Jesse Waters said that on Fox, and I think it's a very scary proposition because you had Reagan. He's already 6 years into his 8-year tenure. Is it really the end of the world if he doesn't have his A game? He had good people in place. This is scary and dangerous. We're supposed to have the third rail, and that's supposed to be the press. Where are they? This was their job. To smoke this out. Sorry,
we haven't had the press acting as the fourth estate in a long time. They are simply another arm of the Democratic Party. They have not gone after what goes on. They're not even, under the Trump administration, they went after him no matter what he said. And we saw during the campaign when evidence came out against Hunter Biden, until after the election, the media went, oh, there's no story here. There's no story here. And then all of a sudden, oh, maybe there's a story. But they didn't even bother to investigate. So we don't have the press as a guardian of the public anymore. Now, in all due fairness, the role of guardian of the public has rarely been served by the media. Remember, Hearst used his papers to get us into a war and to push his agenda. Joseph Pulitzer started the Pulitzer Prize because he was ashamed of his actions as a journalist.
Yeah, but I think it's a new level now. I really do. I believe, again, I hearken back to Walter Cronkite, blah, 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 Chet Huntley. If you interviewed them, if you had a scotch and soda with them, they probably were fairly liberal. I know Cronkite was, but at least he put on his newspaper or newsperson's face. This is just great.
Yeah, we don't have that
really
anymore.
This is dangerous, Dr. Lopkin. You have someone that's not up for the job, suffering probably from dementia, and he's leading the free world. This is, and here's my prediction, and we'll move on. It cannot be hid forever. I'd say things are going to start falling down, literally and figuratively. I would say within 6 months to a year. You can't fake this forever. I don't care if you're best buddies with the press. You can't do this forever.
No, at some point it does have to come out. Honestly, I think the walls will start coming down later this year, but I think you're really going to see it fall apart as the 2014 election cycle kicks in. 2024. This is how bad COVID has been. I can't even tell what year it is anymore.
No, I understand.
When the 2022 midterm elections kick in, you're going to see all of the Republicans go after the fact that this has been covered up, and they're not going to be able to fight it off.
I think you're right. I also think there's going to, and I said this a month ago, whatever. It's going to be on the international scene if they even venture him out. I don't know if they can really bring this guy out in the international scene unless it's a real, cushy situation like the Prince of Vanguard or something, whatever. But, Putin or something, the international press starts asking him questions. It's going to be a complete meltdown.
Yeah, well, again, he hasn't even taken questions from our press.
No, but I'm saying he can control our press. He goes to Japan or to Russia.
Right. He's got
China.
No control over them. They have no ties to either party. They'll go after him, and he won't be able to handle it.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Okay, another interesting tidbit in the news. Let's just go over this real quick. Stimulus passed. We talked a little bit before this podcast. I think it's a lot of pork. The vaccine's coming on board. I'm not so sure it's even necessary, but that is my opinion.
I think there is still a stimulus package that's necessary. I don't think it needed to be as comprehensive as this one. It could have been much more targeted. I think it's good to give small businesses a little more help to get them through. Certainly individuals could use. I don't think they needed to bail out states and towns the way they did, simply because most of the states and towns that are in trouble were in trouble before COVID, not because of it.
Yeah, well, it was a green light for bailing out their friends like in New York, to switch gears and try to do this as seamlessly as possible, Dr. Lopkin. The mighty has fallen. If you're on the stage, I'm talking about Governor Cuomo. He had, over the summer, he was the rock star. Trump was the big dummy. He was the moral authority and things. I don't think he lasts. I'm sorry. I really don't.
I
when
don't
liberals
think he
turn
can.
on liberals, it's over, dude.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, now we have a sixth woman accusing him of sexual harassment. More people have come forward. Between the sexual harassment accusations and the investigation that's going into his actions with the nursing homes, the New York State legislature has already brought a motion to impeach him. So his days are numbered. And what I found really interesting is that not that long ago, thanks to the Me Too movement, New York passed a new law about sexual misconduct. And under this law, Andrew Cuomo's apology for his actions can be considered an admission of guilt, which means they may actually have him on criminal charges thanks to a law that he passed.
Well, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I'm sorry, we a little bit disagree on this. A little bit, Dr. Lopkin. His father, I'll give him a B- as a governor. The great orator, though, he could sell you ice in the winter.
Yeah, we do disagree a bit on that, because you have to remember, I actually lived in New York during his gubernatorial reign, and he did do a lot of good for the state.
Then I'll defer to you, but his son is hardly any great leader. People are leaving New York. They're going to Connecticut. That's how bad it is. That's
how bad it is. And ironically, if they do manage to get rid of Andrew Cuomo, there is a possibility it will actually be more devastating for New York, because progressives in the state legislature have been trying to push through a wealth tax. Now, we've heard this on the national stage from Biden and well, especially Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. But for those of you who don't know what a wealth tax actually is, this is a tax on stock portfolios, collectibles, things like this. It's a tax on money that people don't actually have. And
yes, in portfolio,
yes, and Andrew Cuomo has been blocking the progressives in New York from enacting this. If they get rid of him and push through the wealth tax, you are going to see a greater exodus from New York City than we've seen since the 1970s.
Interesting. Well, Dr. Lopkin will be back on live on Friday. Great discussion. I just want to ask you one question for our listeners. Do you think that I believe that the tides are going to, they're already turning on Cuomo. I think 2022 or 2024 is going to be interesting.
I think both those years are going to be interesting. I think 2022, you're going to see the Republicans take back the Senate and possibly the House as well. 2024, you're going to see the Democrats have a lot of problems because Biden essentially won because there was an anti-Trump vote.
Yeah, and he screwed up too.
When you don't have the anti-Trump forces coming out, when the Democrats actually have to run on their record and get people to vote for them based on their accomplishments, they're going to have a lot of problems.
Dr. Lopkin, great segment. Thanks a lot, and thank our listeners.
And we will see you Friday at 4:00 at blogtalkradio.com/Carnivore Radio, where you can be part of the conversation. We'll see you then. You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.